This show is brought to you in part by viewers like you who joined a Patreon or become YouTube members. Thank you. And if you could, hit the like button and subscribe if you want more Browns-focused content.
All right, the video I posted earlier today was a very reasonable run-through of the Cleveland Browns schedule, but I did save one fun part of the schedule reveal for a different video, because in that first video, I kind of want to talk about the teams that the Browns are playing, what position they're in, could they rise, could they lower, could they be better than they were last year, all that other stuff, and take a measured tone. But I always like to have fun when the schedule goes out and predict the season, right? Do my 2025 spoilers video. These aren't serious predictions, but we're having fun with it. I like to come up with a little bit of a storyline for how the season's going to go. And usually these storylines are kind of just off the cuff here. So we're going to have fun with it. We're going to go through this Cleveland Browns schedule, and we're going to see how the season's going to go based on the spoilers of the vibes. So let's put our vibes hats on. Actually, let me get my vibe hat on. Let me do that. All right, vibes mode is unlocked, and let's get to it. All right, week 1 versus the Cincinnati Bengals. Everybody's going to think that before this game that this is the year that the Cincinnati Bengals finally get their shit together week 1. They're finally going to get it together. They're finally going to win and not have a slow start to the season. And the Cleveland Browns will come out and upset the Cincinnati Bengals. The Browns' defensive line will be ferocious on the Bengals' offensive line, and it will raise a lot of questions about what the Bengals' offseason priorities were. Remember, this is still a team that is actively feuding with their best defensive player. The Browns had a similar situation with Myles Garrett. They got that figured out all the way back in March. The Bengals, on the other hand, situation popped up, I think, after the Myles Garrett situation, and is still continuing to this day. This could lead to more funkiness for the Cincinnati Bengals, especially offensively, than they would like to admit. Also consider the Browns might start Joe Flacco. Now, I have all of my concerns about week 9, week 10, week 11, if you'll roll out Joe Flacco as your starting quarterback. Don't feel great about Joe Flacco past the 6th start that he gets. And that's no disrespect to Joe Flacco. He's 40 years old. Yes, there have been quarterbacks who have played past 40 and been fine, right? Tom Brady has played past 40 and been fine. Maybe you could throw Aaron Rodgers in that category, even though I don't think you really can at this point. But those are two of the greatest quarterbacks of their generation, and Joe Flacco is simply never been in the same conversation as those two. So don't think Joe Flacco going to be able to give you a full season. He hasn't given you a full season in the NFL since Lamar Jackson wasn't even in the NFL. We're talking about 2017, and Lamar took over for them halfway through the year in 2018. So, yeah, not very confident in Joe Flacco once we get into like December or November. But September, October, I think Joe Flacco could be pretty decent for you. And I think the Browns offense is going to surprise some people early on. It's not going to be the most crazy offense you've ever seen in your life, but it's going to be better than people expect. I think the defense is going to be very strong, and they're going to come out and really give some games to some teams that I don't think people are anticipating that the Cleveland Browns can give a game to, including the Cincinnati Bengals. They will win. People will talk about the slow start for the Cincinnati Bengals, and then we'll roll into week 2. Now, Joe Flacco will be riding high. Big game versus Baltimore. He's coming off of a good game against the Cincinnati Bengals. And I think this game will surprisingly be close. It'll be the closest the Browns come, spoiler warning, to beating the Baltimore Ravens this year. Ultimately, I think the Baltimore Ravens will win this game. Joe Flacco throws a late game interception, which leads to some late game Lamar Jackson bullshit that we're all used to at this point in year whatever of Lamar Jackson's career versus the Cleveland Browns. But yeah, the Browns will start the year 1-1, but you feel pretty good about that 1-1. You'll be thinking to yourself, hey man, we're like one interception away from having a really impressive 2-0 start. You know, then you play the Packers. I think this game would be similarly close. I would say it could be a toss-up, right? The Packers can have these weird stretches in the year where they don't look as good as they're going to be by the end of the year. Last year, they started a little bit slower. I believe they were slow at some point in the season where they looked like they weren't even going to make the playoffs. Correct me if I'm wrong on that. So, it's going to be another back and forth, grueling, kind of slug out game. And I think the Browns are going to lose this one, but just barely. Another couple of Joe Flacco late game interceptions, and now we're starting to be worried about the Joe Flacco stuff, right? Week 1, we were thrilled. Week 2, okay, damn. But it's Baltimore. Week 3, we're like, hold on, like, is Joe going to be okay? Then you play the Detroit Lions, and I think this is when the wheels fall off of Joe Flacco's second run in Cleveland. I think the Lions are going to come in and smack the shit out of you. Be honest. I'm gonna be honest here. The Lions are gonna come in and they're gonna destroy us. Joe Flacco's gonna throw like 3 interceptions, and this is gonna be the first time that we see either Kenny Pickett or Dylan Gabriel. Let's go with Kenny Pickett, right? Kenny Pickett's a more fun option to insert into the story. So, Joe Flacco struggles. Kenny Pickett gets inserted if he doesn't get traded before the offseason. If Kenny Pickett gets traded, substitute him with Dylan Gabriel. And they play this next stretch of the season. So now you're 1-3. The vibes are much lower. Right? Vibes started out pretty high, pretty happy. Now the vibes are a little low right now. Now, week 5 against the Vikings, I think the Browns pull out a surprise win here. I think they do. There is no guarantee that the Vikings are going to be good this year. They have a lot up in the air. London game, maybe they're a little bit more foggy. The Browns have the energy of being like, hey, we're going to go with our new starting quarterback. And they get the surprise dub, Dylan Gabriel's first win or as a Brown, or Kenny Pickett's first win as a Cleveland Brown. And it will be a fun game, not really a statistically marvelous game, really going to be carried by defensive effort. And the Browns will go into a week 6 matchup versus Pittsburgh. On Sunday at 1:00. This is crazy that they're playing that game right after the London trip. And they will go in with a 2-3 record. Yes, a 2-3 record through 5 weeks of football. And we'll say to ourselves, it's not that bad. The expectation is going to be pretty low this year, but not that bad. They're 1 win away from tying their total last year. So you feel pretty decent about that. Then you play Pittsburgh in Pittsburgh. Hey, this game's going to be a disaster. Again, similar to the Detroit game. And look, I don't think Pittsburgh's roster looks great. I understand every argument people are going to give me and why we really shouldn't count ourselves out of this Pittsburgh game. But until this franchise beats Pittsburgh in Pittsburgh during the regular season, they did it once in the pandemic with no fans in the playoffs. But in the regular season, I'm just going to assume that that's going to be the low point of the year. It's always the low point of the year. And this is when we go from, hey, Kenny Pickett / Dylan Gabriel won us a game. Let's see what they got, to maybe they suck. Maybe they suck, right? Then you get the Dolphins game. I think the Browns lose that one. And then they play the Patriots. Now, going into this Patriots game, the Cleveland Browns are on a 2-game losing streak. Their last win was against the Vikings, and they are now, 2-5? Correct me if I'm wrong here. Yeah, I got them winning the Bengals game, losing the Ravens game, losing the Packers game, losing the Lions game. So it's 1-3, 2-3. 2-4, 2-5. So they lost to the Dolphins. They're 2-5. They go in to play the Patriots, and this game starts out bad. And at halftime, the Browns pull the plug on the Kenny Pickett / Dylan Gabriel experiment, and they go with Shedeur Sanders, who does win this game versus the Patriots. And now you're 3-5, and the bye week comes with a lot of intrigue. Shedeur Sanders just played, you could say, comeback victory Looked pretty good. Is he the starter for the rest of the year? Are the Browns going to commit to him as the starter for the rest of the year? And let's make it even more spicy here. You know, let's put the speculation hat even on tighter here, right? Let's say instead of bad performance being the reason why Kenny Pickett or Dylan Gabriel get benched in this game, let's say it's because they got injured. Like a minor injury, not a massive injury, just a minor injury, right? And that's why they are in consideration. Well, that's why Shedeur Sanders played. Shedeur plays well. Let's also throw in that Joe Flacco got hurt way back in like week 4. He's out for the year or whatever it is. He's not going to be back for a while. So Joe Flacco's out. Kenny Pickett got hurt. Shedeur Sanders stepped in, played well. But during the bye week, you expected Kenny Pickett or Dylan Gabriel are back healthy, and you're having this conversation. Well, you know, you did win 2 games, and maybe they were helpful to help you win that Patriots game. But Shedeur stepped in there, looked pretty good. There's going to be a debate. Who should play the starting quarterback for the rest of the year? I think the Browns are going to be pretty non-committal about this, but they will start Shedeur Sanders coming out of the bye week. Now, again, the Cleveland Browns are a 3-win team at this point, right? The season is pretty tight at this point. They're 3-5. They play the Jets. They beat the Jets. They're 4-5. And now we're like, we beat the Ravens. We could be 500. Like, we might be able to have real hopes. We lose against the Ravens. We're going to get swept against the Ravens. And it's going to be a moment where Shedeur probably doesn't look very good. Every rookie has one of these games, or at least most rookies have one of these games. Shedeur going to look like bad against the Ravens. Then you get the Raiders game. I think the Browns win that one. I think Shedeur steps up, looks pretty good in that game. And we're like, maybe we have something here. Again, we're 5-6. We know what the record is. We're looking at Jacksonville, seeing whatever they're doing. That's going to be our hope to get a number 1 overall selection. But we're feeling pretty decent about it. And then they play the 49ers. Browns don't win this game, but they don't look bad in this game, right? So they lose to the 49ers. And let's recap. You won against the Bengals. You won against the Vikings. You won against the Patriots. You won against the Jets. You won against the Raiders. So you have 5 wins on the season by the time we get to week 13. Some quick napkin math tells you the Browns are 5-7 at that point going into the Titans game. Now, this is going to be a game that I think does get flexed to national TV. Cam Ward, Shedeur Sanders, they're going to make a big deal out of this. I think this is going to be very uneventful. I don't think Shedeur or Cam plays well in this one, but I think the Browns defense carries them through. They get to 6-7. Then they play the Bears. And let's say the Browns beat the Bears, right? And that's when people start getting excited, right? So the Browns beat the Bears. You look at the schedule, you're like, well, Shedeur won the New England game. He won the game with the Jets. He won the game with the Raiders. So that's 3 wins. 4 wins, 5 wins, and that's the narrative being pushed there. And people are like, can he actually do something against the Bills? He doesn't do shit against the Bills. He looks awful against the Bills. The Browns dropped to 7-8, but that's fine. You expected it. And then the Pittsburgh Steelers at home, you beat them. Not the most impressive outing by Shedeur Sanders. Very hard for a rookie quarterback to beat a Mike Tomlin defense, but that has been done multiple times before. The record is not so daunting against that. It can be done. The Browns get that win there, and I believe that puts them at, do I got them at 8 wins? Let me double check that, right? Bengals, Packers, Vikings. No, they ain't beat the Packers in this scenario. Bengals, Vikings, Patriots, Jets, Raiders, Titans, Bears. So it's 5, 6, 7. And then beating Pittsburgh at home. They haven't lost that game in a very long time. That's 8. And look, that's a very big improvement. They get smacked by Cincinnati at the end of the season. And the big question is going to be this in the offseason. The Browns won a lot of games with Shedeur at the end of the season. Now, some of these games are going to be because Shedeur plays very well. Some of these games, you can argue any quarterback could have played in those games and won because they're going to be headlined by Browns' defensive efforts. Let's say in that stretch, right, which it sounds like super pro Shedeur, but let's say in that stretch, the only 2 games where you say to yourself, Shedeur played super well, got over 300 yards, are the Titans game and the Raiders game. The question all offseason is going to be, hey, he looked good against some bad opponents. but against good teams, didn't really look that special. Do you still commit to him? And that's going to be the conversation, right? And if you don't like that it's Shedeur I'm putting in this stretch, you could substitute Shedeur with Dylan Gabriel. I could care less, right? That's just my made-up scenario. That's what I decided to do. Again, this is not that serious of an exercise. But I think that could be a potential conversation that can be had over the offseason, and that's what we spend the 2026 offseason saying to ourselves. How much do the Browns commit to Shedeur Sanders coming to this season? And let's make it even spicier. Let's say the Jacksonville Jaguars stink and get you a top pick. It's going to be an interesting offseason yet again. I think everybody would be happy if the Browns got 8 wins this year. So that's my spoiler warnings. I've seen it already for the Cleveland Browns season. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. You spoil the season down below. Let me see your predictions on how this thing is going to go, when quarterbacks are going to be inserted. There's a lot of different ways it could shake out. I'm not really married to one scenario, so I'm excited to see what you guys pop up here down below. Y'all have a great day. Have an even better night. Peace.